If a man can smile while standing in the fire, it's not because he feels no pain. It's because he has already learned who set the fire. Most people never do. They spend years mistaking manipulation for love, guilt for loyalty, and control for care. The Stoics warned that the greatest danger to the mind is not chaos itself, but the person who teaches you to live inside it. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." But what happens when another person begins scripting that imagination? When someone learns to bend your perception so skillfully that you start apologizing for the wounds they gave you. That is the true poison. Not the act, but the subtle conditioning of the soul. Toxic people don't destroy you outright. They retrain you to question your sanity, to doubt your worth, to explain away your own exhaustion. The Stoics would call it the corruption of the soul's clarity. To them, the highest virtue was discernment, the ability to see the world as it is, unclouded by passion or deceit. But when a toxic person enters your life, their chaos becomes contagious. They infect perception. You begin to think constant tension is normal, that walking on eggshells is a form of peace. Every moment becomes a small negotiation with your own integrity. Marcus Aurelius warned that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Spend enough time around bitterness, and your inner light dims to match it. You start mirroring their moods, absorbing their fears, shrinking your joy so they won't feel small beside it. And when they finally accuse you of being distant, you find yourself apologizing for the distance they created. The Stoic mind studies not the words of others, but their effects. Does their presence bring calm or confusion? Do you feel nourished or emptied after speaking with them? Are you freer or quietly enslaved? The answers reveal what your heart already knows. Toxicity is not always loud. Sometimes it is polite, articulate, and patient. It comes wrapped in empathy, cloaked in concern. It tells you it only wants what's best, all while slowly eroding your sense of self. Psychologically, this is projection in its purest form. Those who cannot face their shadow must cast it on another. The insecure will call you arrogant. The liar will call you deceitful. The manipulator will accuse you of control. In Jungian terms, this is the shadow's defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to stay unseen by blaming the mirror. A Stoic, however, sees the pattern and remains unmoved. They understand that false accusation is a confession in disguise. Epictetus taught that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Likewise, it is not the toxic person who destroys peace. It is our attachment to their validation. You believe that if you stay calm enough, kind enough, forgiving enough, they will finally see your worth. But you are dealing with someone whose survival depends on you, never realizing it. Your empathy becomes their weapon. Your understanding becomes their shield. There is a difference between compassion and captivity. Stoic compassion holds love with boundaries. It does not seek to fix what refuses to heal itself. It recognizes that to save the toxic is to drown beside them. True virtue is not endurance. It is discernment. The Stoics did not preach blind forgiveness. They preached mastery of emotion. To know when to walk away without hatred. To leave without needing closure. When night falls and your mind replays their words, remember, the soul that values truth cannot coexist with manipulation. Silence is not weakness. It is wisdom, choosing its own peace. To the Stoic, walking away is not abandonment. It is alignment with reason, with nature, with dignity. You owe no one your ruin. You owe your peace to no tyrant of the heart. The toxic feed on chaos. Deny them reaction, and they starve. Detachment is the highest revenge, not cruelty, not coldness, but clarity. Freedom begins not when you fight back, but when you stop explaining yourself. For explanation is energy, and energy is what they crave. The moment you choose stillness over defense, their power dissolves like smoke in wind. And in that silence, you return to yourself, untangled, unshaken, reborn in discipline and light. The most dangerous people are not those who shout, but those who smile while they poison your peace. They study your empathy like a map, find the softest place in your heart, and build their throne there. At first, they seem gentle, even wounded. They talk of pain, of loyalty, of how no one understands them but you. And so you open the gates, unaware that what you welcomed was not a soul seeking refuge, but a storm seeking shelter. The Stoics knew this archetype well. They spoke of those who disguise desire as virtue, need as love, and control as protection. Epictetus warned that when someone shows you anger, envy, or deception, you are looking at their sickness, not your failure. But most people don't know how to look without absorbing. The toxic mind infects through empathy. It weaponizes your kindness, twisting it into guilt. And before long, you begin to doubt the clarity that once guided you. In The Psychology of the Shadow, Jung described this as psychic contamination, when the boundary between two souls dissolves and one begins to live through the other. The toxic thrive on this merger. They blur your lines until you can no longer tell whose emotions you're carrying. You think you're helping them heal, but you're merely volunteering to feel their chaos. Every outburst becomes your fault. Every silence becomes your test. And every apology you give is a quiet surrender of power. The Stoic path demands detachment, not from love, but from illusion. True reason sees behind masks. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look beneath the surface. Within is the fountain of good." But sometimes when you look beneath, you find not a fountain, but a pit. You realize that some people are not searching for peace. They are addicted to turmoil. They crave emotional turbulence because it reminds them they exist. The calmer you become, the more they provoke, for your serenity threatens their identity. Toxicity has many forms, but its signature is always the same. It thrives where boundaries are weak. It loves ambiguity, emotional debt, and half-closed doors. It fears clarity, because clarity kills manipulation. The Stoic learns to watch for that fear. Notice how a toxic person reacts to no. See how they shrink when met with stillness instead of defense. See how they grow uneasy when your silence stops feeding their narrative. That is when they reveal themselves, not in conflict, but in your peace. Seneca taught that the wise man is self-sufficient, yet sociable. He lives among others without becoming one of them. This is emotional sovereignty, the state in which your peace does not depend on another's approval. The toxic will try to shatter it through cycles of reward and punishment, affection and withdrawal. They keep you chasing the version of themselves they showed you once, knowing you'll confuse it for hope. But the Stoic sees that pattern for what it is: conditioning. The illusion of love used as a leash. When you observe without reacting, something miraculous happens. The spell breaks. Their insults become noise. Their guilt trips become scripts you've already read. You realize their chaos never belonged to you. You were simply cast as the audience in their tragedy. And now, you're stepping out of the theater. Psychologically, this moment is rebirth, the reclaiming of projection. What you once thought was love was perhaps your own unhealed need to be needed. What you mistook for connection was your own longing to be seen. The Stoics and Jungians both agree the outer world mirrors the inner one. If you attract manipulation, ask where in you the manipulator still hides. If you keep saving others, ask why your worth still depends on rescue. This is shadow work in its purest form. Not condemning others, but understanding what they awaken in you. The toxic are teachers of boundaries. Painful, yes, but sacred in their purpose. For without them, you might never learn that peace is not found in harmony with others. It is built in solitude and protected by truth. So the next time someone calls you cold for protecting your peace, remember, Stoic detachment is not numbness, it is mastery. It is the art of loving without losing yourself, giving without guilt, and walking away without hatred. For love that demands your silence is not love. It is domination, disguised as devotion. The mind of a toxic person is a theater of illusions, every act rehearsed, every emotion a performance designed to pull you back into their gravity. They know how to cry at the perfect moment, how to make guilt sound like grace, how to twist silence into accusation. You are not dealing with sincerity. You are dealing with survival instinct disguised as affection. Their love is a contract written in invisible ink, valid only when you agree to lose yourself. The Stoics would see this clearly. Marcus Aurelius warned that the nearer a thing is to nothing, the more it strives to appear as something. The toxic soul is precisely that, empty, yet desperate to seem full. They take from you not because they need what you have, but because your peace reminds them of what they lack. The calm of a centered person is unbearable to the disordered. It reflects their chaos too vividly, and so they must stain it. They provoke to test if your peace is real, to see if your composure can be stolen. You may not even notice the theft at first. It begins with subtle erosion. Your laughter becomes quieter, your opinions smaller, your world narrower. You start censoring yourself before they can. This is not compromise, it is self-erasure, the quietest form of decay. And yet, beneath the wreckage, something sacred still stirs, the Stoic flame that refuses to die, the part of you that remembers peace as your birthright. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." Freedom, in this sense, is not physical escape, but psychological sovereignty. The moment you realize that you owe no emotional debt to those who wound you, the spell breaks. You stop explaining. You stop negotiating with distortion. You stop confusing suffering with virtue. Because to the Stoic, endurance without purpose is not strength. It is stagnation. Modern psychology agrees. Toxic attachment often grows from unresolved trauma, the inner child still craving validation from those who withhold it. You mistake familiarity for love because chaos feels like home. This is why Stoic wisdom is revolutionary. It teaches that peace is not earned from others. It is chosen within. To see clearly is to heal. When you stop personalizing the cruelty of others, you stop bleeding for it. Every Stoic lesson is a psychological mirror. When you study Epictetus's line, "If someone is angry with you, their anger is their problem," you are being invited to practice detachment, not indifference. To say, "I will not allow your storm to rewrite my climate." You learn to feel compassion without ownership, to observe someone's brokenness and still keep your boundaries intact. The toxic fear this detachment because it breaks their system. Their entire control depends on your emotional reaction. They need you to explain, to justify, to care, because caring keeps you tethered. Once you stop reacting, their power collapses under its own emptiness. They rage louder, accuse harder, but it no longer lands. The Stoic within you watches, unmoved, like a mountain above a storm. And then, something remarkable happens. The guilt that once haunted you dissolves. You begin to see your old self, the one who tolerated disrespect, excused manipulation, defended the indefensible, not as weak, but as unaware. That version of you was still learning what peace requires: loss. For peace demands you release the familiar, even when it feels like love. The Stoics did not preach cruelty. They preached purity of perception. They would tell you, do not hate the toxic person. Hate is just another chain. See them as a symptom of unmastered desire, yours and theirs. They crave control because they lack harmony. You endured them because you lacked boundaries. But now, clarity has arrived. You can look upon the same face and feel nothing but understanding. Not the kind that excuses, but the kind that ends cycles. To recognize toxicity is to reclaim your inner authority. You are no longer the mirror that reflects another's chaos. You are the flame that burns through illusion. When you reach this point, even your silence becomes a sermon. You no longer argue, defend, or explain. You simply withdraw energy. And that withdrawal is not cold. It is sacred. It is the act of returning home to your soul, where no manipulation can reach, where your worth is self-defined and your peace self-sustained. There comes a point when the realization hits quietly, not with rage, but with a strange and liberating calm. They were never feeding you. You were feeding them. Every outburst, every guilt trip, every emotional twist was a ritual of energy exchange. They gave you confusion and took your clarity in return. But when the Stoic awakens, the cycle ends. For once you recognize the trade, you cannot unknow it. Seneca said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." The toxic survive only by convincing you that your mind is weak, that your emotions betray you, that detachment is cruelty, that peace is selfish. But when reason returns, the spell breaks. You see that self-control is not suppression. It is self-protection. You begin to understand what Stoic discipline truly is. Not coldness, but order. Not indifference, but the refusal to participate in madness. The modern mind often confuses love with absorption. We are taught to merge, to dissolve into the other, to prove devotion by losing identity. The Stoics rejected this illusion. They saw love not as consumption, but as alignment. Two whole beings orbiting the same truth, not feeding on each other's wounds. Toxic people cannot love this way. They require imbalance to feel significant. The stronger you become, the more they must diminish you to restore control. That is why they mock your growth, minimize your achievements, or turn every victory into competition. They are not reacting to your pride. They are reacting to their own smallness. Epictetus would remind you, when someone treats you poorly, remember, they act according to their understanding. This is compassion without compromise. You can forgive their ignorance without submitting to it. You can see their pain without allowing it to guide your life. You can release resentment because it serves no purpose, but still walk away because wisdom demands it. The Stoic heart does not cling to the flame once it has burned, and yet many remain trapped, not by love, but by hope. The hope that one day the apology will come. The hope that their eyes will open. The hope that all the suffering will finally make sense. This is the most subtle toxin of all, the illusion of potential. But Stoic wisdom dissolves that illusion with brutal clarity. You have power over your mind, not outside events. To wait for another's transformation is to hand them the key to your peace. Psychologically, this awakening is individuation, the process Jung described as becoming whole by reclaiming what was projected. You no longer chase validation because you no longer need reflection to know your worth. The toxic person's opinion becomes irrelevant, not through hatred, but through transcendence. You have outgrown their gravity. You are no longer orbiting their emotions. You are centered in your own. This clarity feels strange at first, almost empty. No guilt, no argument, no craving for closure, just stillness. But this is what freedom feels like to those who have lived too long in noise. The mind begins to heal in silence. The nervous system recalibrates. The soul, long deprived of peace, begins to trust quiet again. You realize that healing is not the return to who you were. It is the birth of someone who can never be manipulated again. The Stoics saw this as the natural rhythm of virtue, detachment, reflection, rebirth. Once you see clearly, you cannot live dishonestly. Once you have tasted peace, chaos tastes bitter. Once you have honored truth, lies lose their seduction. The toxic person fades into insignificance, not because they changed, but because you did. To recognize toxicity through Stoic wisdom is to reclaim dominion over the only kingdom that truly matters, the inner one. Here, no voice can deceive you, no shadow can rule you, no guilt can anchor you. You have learned to observe without absorbing, to feel without losing form. You have mastered the art of standing still while the storm destroys itself. And when they finally realize they can no longer reach you, they will call you cold. Let them. The sun seems cold only to those who live in shadow. The Stoic does not explain. The Stoic simply shines.